Howdy, chum. I just wanted to say that. Welcome back to the Dynasty Grind. My name is Peter Howard at PA Howdy on Twitter. I write for DLF. We do a live stream every week, which is this at 9:30-ish. Not to steal the open bar thunder. Every Wednesday, Eastern Standard Time, to talk about Dynasty, fantasy football in general. If you have any questions, drop them whatever comment box and whatever streaming platform, whether it's to the left or below the screen, depending on the platform that you might be listening to. We'll be happy to talk about it or just chat more generally about football. Not much going on right now. You know, it's barely interesting. Like, what's new in football? Like, something about to happen? No idea. But yeah, be happy to talk to you. And let's get to it, I guess. Let's go see who I have behind the curtain. Is it Outhouse? It's not. He's quit. He quit on us. He doesn't like us no more. Hey Zach, how you doing?
Not bad. I feel like I could change my handle to Dynasty Outhouse if that would help.
It would make me personally feel more loved. Yeah. Yeah, what's going on? I got seasonal week 1 projections, first run up. If you've got any questions, any start sit questions, just Zach, not you hungry people. But yeah. I don't know. I haven't been keeping up with the news. I know Cooper Kupp is never going to play again, and Travis Kelce is done for the year, something like that, right? That's what my timeline seems to think.
And Thielen got hurt today too, so it's all the old guys are
all
out.
Oh wow,
done.
Yeah, awesome, fun start to the season. A lot of I thought only running backs get injured. Yeah, it's about the general tone of my timeline, at least. Oh, look, Kevin. Hey, Kevin. Jahan Dotson and Antonio Gibson, or Cam Akers and Brandon Ayuk, 12-team, start 9 Superflex. Is this a start sit question, or is this a trade question?
Feels like
I have to start asking that. Let's see. I'd rather have, I don't know, Cam Akers and Brandon Ayuk, I guess, but it's about even. I mean, it's one-to-one positional trade. You know, you're just betting on who's going to lose. Gibson's a good PPR start. Cam Akers probably make up that with a pretty good share of both the receiving and the rushing game. Jahan Dotson's been a little oversold right now, so he might be more interesting because there's someone in your league who's maybe a little bit more interested in him than they were last week, over the last few weeks. But Brandon Ayuk has always been that guy. Personally, I try to work another trade if this is what's in my inbox, because I don't think there's really an edge here to exploit. And I'd probably prefer Ayuk over Dotson. But I don't know. People might be feeling differently about that now. What do you think?
No, I think I'm with you. I think I'd rather have the Akers and Ayuk side, but I also think that if I'm going to make a trade like this, I'm going to try to shift and do something either bigger or smaller and not for the same position, like not for the same position.
Switch for a tight end improvement or a quarterback one, or just put it all into a wide receiver instead of trying to get an even amount back.
But feet
the gelato trade. That's right, BJ Lee.
See, BJ knows. It's always time for gelato.
Ryan 23. Rate the trade. I got AJ Brown and Javonte. He gets Madison and Kirk. AJ Brown, please. AJ Brown all day.
You and honestly, I think I'd rather have Javonte than Madison. So yes, I don't know. What are we going out of on a scale of 7 to 23? That's like a 19.
Yeah, it's very easily the Adrian Brown side for me. Drew Sorensen music. I'm projected top 3. And that's always scary to me. In both my dynasty leagues plus my redraft league. Well, but congrats. Feeling good. Can't wait to see what we got this year. Yeah, it's always fun to watch the results fall in. I'm only really excited to see the results once they're finally correlated, once that big spreadsheet in the sky runs all this season out. But yeah, me too, actually. Got a few questions I want to answer.
Don't lie, Peter. You're excited to watch the tape.
Yeah, sure. Kevin, it was a trade. Okay, cool. Thoughts on Cole Kmet this year? None. He's mostly missed my window, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so
it's David Njoku arc, maybe?
No, not even close. I don't even think he's got that. I don't. I think he's the Cole Kmet arc, which is sub Njoku.
We out. Sorry, Ryan. Frank N., what do you guys think of Darnell Mooney? I think he's slightly undersold. I know I haven't finished reading it. He's slightly undersold in Dynasty right now. There's some upside there, but he's entered a period of his career where we're more likely to see a repetition of what he's already done before, which is top 24. Having said that, Justin Fields is an interesting proposition for what might happen to the receiving corps. I think his value is well accounted for in Dynasty. But if he does have that upside, that probably means something more positive for the receiving corps isn't accounted for in Darnell Mooney's ADP. So there's outlandish potential there. And the Bears offense should obviously be better. Better be. But he's a clear wide receiver 2 now. Do you guys like his value right now? I think I answered most of that. Zach, what do you think? Like, if I'm looking for like cheap upside, pushing points, but also a little value, I think Mooney's interesting.
I don't mind it if you're trying to hunt for points, but I don't think he's ever going to gain value to the point where you're happy trading him and happy with what you get back. So
he could enter like a Robert Woods field of value where he's valuable, but no one really happy about it, and everyone hypes him, but no one really wants to trade for. Yeah,
it's hard for me to see with the Bears. Darnell Mooney get the Robert Woods kind of value arc, because what happened with Robert Woods, if you remember, was he was traded to LA, and the Rams offense was high volume, high flying, lots of passing, even with Jared Goff. Like that, it was we're going to throw the ball, 30 or 40 times a game, and here we go. And Robert Woods saw some volume, and the issue I have with the Bears receiving core this year is, even if Justin Fields increases by a ton in terms of passing volume, he's still going to end up being below average in the NFL. And then taking the wide receiver 2 in an offense that has below average targets to begin with, it's just really like, I love Darnell Mooney. And don't get me wrong, I've been a Darnell Mooney fan. I drafted him in the 4th and 5th round of rookie drafts the year he came out. I liken him a little bit to Jarvis Landry in the way that he played. He hasn't played that way. They haven't deployed him that way. He's been a little bit more down the field. But it's really hard for me to look at the Bears offense and think, oh yeah, Justin Fields is going to have this huge uptick in volume, and there's going to be enough to make DJ Moore happy and Darnell Mooney happy and still feed everybody. And I know it's not mouths to feed. It's how big a portion there is to go around to begin with.
Yeah, I can see what you mean.
Sorry. I
was giving you the benefit of the doubt. It's fine. Being a definition monkey is one thing, but you have to be a little bit more reasonable as a human, I think. Yeah, I knew what you meant. Kevin says he's starting Jordan Addison over Khalil Herbert and Treylon Burks in the flex. And I think for week 1, current projection says that's fair. I checked. So, I don't think Burks is scheduled to play right now.
I don't know. I haven't seen that. Peter, I have a question. With your projections, do you have in a flex spot Deion Jackson, Hollywood Brown, or Addison?
Marcus Brown and who?
Jordan Addison, Deion Jackson, Marquise Brown.
Who's Deion Jackson?
He's going to probably start for the Colts.
I still have Taylor projected to start. I haven't updated since then. But the third guy was?
Addison.
I missed it. Oh, okay. It normally doesn't go to the running back in a tie. So, yeah, it's Marcus Brown right now.
Okay. That was not that. I
projected for lower points, but more rankers are a little more certain, and that he'll finish higher. That's how the certainty formula works. So Addison's probably got the upside, but week 1, it's hard to say you desperately need that.
And that's I said Deion Jackson just because if he starts, because there's nobody else in that right now running back.
That's Anthony Richardson. I hear he's a...
And yeah, but anyway. I was just curious to see how far off we were.
I'll check for you. BJ Lee, if Kelsey does play tomorrow, would you start him for Everett?
Yeah.
I want to see the injury report. But
look, if
probably.
Kelsey's on the field, I'm playing him. I don't care. I
Yeah.
don't care. I know he'll probably be a decoy. I don't care. Like,
we might get kittled, but
yeah.
I mean, do you want the upside of Kelsey not being a decoy? Do you want the 8 to 11 points that Everett's probably going to bring? You know,
I mean, like literally, if they get in the red zone and Travis Kelsey catches a 6-yard touchdown pass, he is all of a sudden Gerald Everett.
Yeah. Mike Oxlong, 12-team 1 QB start 8. Give Diggs, ETN, and a first. Get Jefferson. Jefferson, please. Although that's heavy. That's a heavy trade.
That is, but it's start 8. I mean, that's
just getting Diggs but younger.
Yeah, I mean, like
for the price of a good fringe top 12 top 14 running back and a first.
I suppose I'd probably have to see the rest of the roster on that one because if I'm competitive right now with Diggs and ETN and I still have my first, I might run with that. If I'm not as competitive, I don't mind getting younger and having, my eggs in the Jefferson basket. So
let's think it through. I don't think there's a problem to get a first for Diggs. That'd be an easy trade. You're probably doing it too low. ETN for a first is probably a fairly easy trade to do the year before the season starts. And a first is a first.
Right.
So you can easily get 3 firsts. So if you're more building, there's definitely better value in trading them off individually. And if you're more competitive, you're definitely better value in keeping ETN and Diggs probably for a single season in 2023. So, yeah, it's roster dependent. You have to be a competitive team that still needs to add value, and then Jefferson wins. But, yeah, that trade's heavy enough. It's not actually default Jefferson. I was wrong. Start cold commit or Okono. I can't say that one. I was waiting for Zach to finish it off because he can.
Okonkwo? Chig, baby. Okonkwo.
Yeah, I don't say names well.
I'd rather start Okonkwo, by the way, just because I don't know.
Didn't need that.
I don't know why, because Komet is just I can't commit.
Commit is just, I can't commit to that. I like it. Yeah, it's Chig. For me right now. Yeah. I'm pretty dead set in following my starter ranks this year, I gotta say. Evan L, Superflex, Christian Watson or Michael Pittman? That shouldn't be tough. Watson's got the upside, but I don't believe in it. Pittman's got the floor, really solid floor, and I do believe in it. So probably is Pittman, I think. I'm rebuilding. I'm not sure who to go with long term. Similar situations and ages. If I take Pittman, I will get a 25 second. I would take Pittman because I think you can trade Pittman for what you can trade him for right now in a year. Whereas Watson's fluctuations on a building team, the potential fluctuation there is too much for me. So I think I'd go Pittman in the second.
Yeah, because otherwise you're playing the volatility of the stock market.
Yeah, and I'm building. I try to sidle away from that. And while it's tempting to go for the upside, especially if I think of myself as building, I'm going to try and avoid it. Frank M, would you start Walker or roll the dice at Javonte week 1? That's a good question. Zach?
Oh, I don't know.
I think it's Ken.
Yeah.
I think at least week 1 is Ken. We're waiting to see what both of their workloads are to start the season, but we can be a little more sure of.
I do long term. I want Javonte Williams still, but yeah, I think you're right. It's hard to place a bet on Javonte Williams coming off that injury, being gone a year and a half, and being week 1.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's Walker, but
Zach, did you like Puka Nacua in the draft? Seems like he'll get lots of work with Cup out.
I didn't. I saw you. I feel bad, Frank. I think you were in the chat with the grind last night and asked this question, and I felt bad that Russ just skipped over it. But like, Puka was okay, but not necessarily a player that I loved coming out, and still am meh on him. I think that it really bodes better for Tyler Higbee than it does for Puka Nacua with Cup being out. I think that will tend to be where the targets turn, especially since targets follow the talent to drive them. So that's
what I was going to say. I don't believe in Puka Nacua. How do you prove him wrong? I think there's upside there. And I don't think targets work that way. I just think there isn't a great wide receiver start without Cup.
Yeah. I think their team is going to be rough.
Yeah, without Cup, it's a little more questionable. Certainly for fantasy, at least. Jahan Dotson is a top 20 Dynasty wide receiver. We are here. Yeah, we started the season thinking he's pretty good. Lots of volume after week 1. Look at all those routes. Maybe a top 36 wide receiver. And now everyone's in on him being, it feels like everyone's gone a little high, but that's just me. All right. Happy Deion Jackson week, guys. Yeah, start the season with a great DraftKings value if you have to play that. Yeah. Good evening, gent. Just the one. Appreciate that, Samson Simpson. And also good evening, gents. I appreciate that less. I don't. It's okay to throw some shade.
Which one was it?
I think
it you or was it me? That's probably you. I'm not really a gent.
No problem, Evan. Genji, he's back. Should I trade Burks away? Dynasty single 24 first. It really depends on your situation. Again, my default's going to be if I'm more building, I'm going to be averse to that value upswing, downswing, that market or that stock market value of unproven, less certain wide receivers. So while I want Burks for a single first, if my team's building, yeah, I'll take the first. It's really a roster's decision at that point for me.
Yeah.
You can have a little more force with your tape opinions, I guess.
Yeah.
But, I meant you might just prefer Burks anyway. Genji, Dolchich or Laporta, week 1, no premium. I'll take the non-rookie to start week 1. They're both a little unproven, but I'll take the guy who's got an extra year under his belt. Just as a difference maker heading into week 1. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to bet on the rookies. It's hard.
It is, especially at tight end.
Yeah, so it's probably Delchich, but I love Laporta. I'm glad you have him rostered,
this is where the low T of Dynasty really pays off. Where all off season we're talking about Laporta and Dolchich and get him on your roster. And week 1 we're like, nah, I don't want to start him. We hope to be much more excited before the end of the season to start him. That's where we're at. Is Kyren Williams with Cup out? I don't know why. I like Kyren Williams. I liked him as a rookie prospect. I guess I don't know. We haven't seen that offense without Cup. We haven't seen this version of that offense without Cup. There's no one on the team that I think is proven to be that volume co-opter with Cup. And so, my default is there isn't one until proven otherwise. Yeah, Josh Reynolds was a flex play, I guess. But, is he still on that team? I forget.
I think he may be in Detroit.
Yeah, I think he moved. Yeah, he's Detroit now. Yeah, he was Detroit last year. I don't know why I forgot that. So no. But, I mean, rosterable, yeah, sure. Because you might see that volume come his way week 1 and the running back pattern. Yeah, you just roster them off on the waiver wire. But I don't know their default starts. Mike's Oxlong, if you're competing, would you rather have Stephon Diggs or Devontae Smith? Decent question. I think in Dynasty it's close enough. I'll just say Smith because all else being equal, I want the guy with more value, and I think both have a similar range of outcomes on a week-to-week basis. Although, if we're betting the fate of the world, who do you want to play this week? I'll bet on Diggs. Don't get me wrong, because I think he's a unique talent and more certain floor. But I think in Dynasty, who would I rather roster? It's Smith. Competing or not, I don't think the difference is that big.
I still think if I'm competing, I'd rather have Diggs. I still think
I wouldn't
there's just
shake a stick at it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be like, fool. That's not how you play Dynasty. But yeah, if I had to choose, I guess just Devontae Smith. See, I even accidentally almost said Stefan Diggs because I'm just so used to that being the answer. Unless you're forced, I don't think you have to make this trade or roster decision. Genji Diggs. Yeah, okay. I'm a weirdo. I'm starting to buy into the Dotson trade. Good for you. It's about time we got on some trains. The season's here. We need some wind on our hair. So let's get on some trains and start sticking our head out the window, I guess. Grant Witham. Should I trade JT and Deion Jackson, both of them together, for Dobbins and Gus Edwards and a 24 first? Currently a contender, and I don't have my own first next year. I think I'd rather keep JT in Dynasty right now and weather this period out. I like Dobbins a lot. I don't think he's got near the ceiling JT does. The first is tempting. I think I just keep JT. I don't think you should be rostering around handcuffs. Is the only other comment I've got here.
Yeah, well, you're trading handcuffs for handcuffs.
Like, this is the whole point. If you're rostering JT and Gus Edwards, you're good. You're actually good. If you're watching Dobbins and Deion Jackson, that would be good. Right now, both of you are just kind of one worth, and the other team's not even better off. Roster each other's handcuffs. Help each other out a little bit.
I don't mind. Like, I don't mind that trade. And like, I know Jonathan Taylor is one of the top tier. I mean, he's not quite in the top tier, but he's like the next tier down, the second level of backs. And like, I fully understand that, but I also think the window is really shrinking to where you can
much increasingly
out
about
of him.
The points you might get in the future, but his value's dropping into where I think that might be interesting to hold on to.
But you're gaining a first, and you're getting a running back to compete with, and like, this is one of the few times where I'd be like, yeah, I think I would trade Jonathan Taylor, even though I like Jonathan Taylor better than I like Dobbins. I'm not a huge Dobbins guy. I think he's fine. But getting Dobbins, I think you're going to get points for this year, which it's still up in the air how they're going to play that Jonathan Taylor situation. They can't trade him for 4 weeks. Okay. They'd have to trade him by Halloween because that's the trade deadline. So you've got this minimal window for Indy to trade him or for Indy to override their ownership, which I don't know how that works. So it's just weird. I'd rather get out.
I'm always ready to sell that hyped running back too, because I just don't think the upside's worth it. And that's what Dobbins is perpetually meant for me. The first does make it tight. I think my real answer is this isn't the trade I'm looking for. If I've lost JT for at least 4 weeks and everything Zach just said, I'm looking for another trade. I'm going to switch positions. I'm not looking to replace him in a trade because I don't think you're going to get one good one that way. Just go full value. What can I get for him that's at a different position? Or just go straight draft capital. I know you're competitive. You want to compete. That's always the right mentality. But you're not going to get a good trade, or one that I like a lot, at least personally. If you like it, you can do it. Looking to replace JT's points in trade. Like, that's why you wouldn't trade him away earlier, why someone else might have sent you an offer like this before he was injured. Like, trying to do it now, you're just operating at a disadvantage. So I'd switch positions. I'd go full dynasty brain on it, or I keep JT. That's where I'm at. Frank M was just offered Chase and Tucker Kraft, who I think is one of Zach's really great
I like
end of the roster kind of guys. Yeah. Yep. For my Lamb and Javonte. I mean, if you can trade for Chase, I think that's... I don't mind giving up Javonte to tear Lamb up into Chase. And Kraft's, fine. Yeah, it's nice. Well, whatever. In a 10-team Superflex, I definitely prefer Chase to Lamb in a 10-team as well. So, yeah, I think that's a really good trade. Zach, sorry, I keep
it's
answering it and moving on.
I don't think it's quite as cut and dry as
okay.
you think, but I'm still on the Chase side, so it doesn't, like, it's fine.
Fair. Samson Simpson, 1 QB, 12 teams, start 8. 8 points per passing touchdowns for quarterbacks, good. You don't want to give those 6 points away to the running backs doing it, because occasionally they do. And had the 108 and traded it for the 110 and the 206. I hate that move in a rookie draft, but okay. He took A-Chain, and I got Charbonnet and Rice. Worked out pretty well. I prefer A-Chain, but if you're getting a Rice as a chaser, as a side dish, I think that actually worked out for you pretty well. Zach, how in are you on Rashee Rice? Like, is that enough for you for the difference between those two running backs? Because I think we have similar ranks. Yeah. Rice's upside is probably Butch. Yeah.
I honestly, I have Rice over both of the running backs. So if you got Rice, then I think you're happy. It's going to be interesting to see him as a rookie with the Chiefs offense and see how that shakes out. But I do think he's really talented. And I think
just needs
eventually
one good game, and that pays off like bigly. Tank Bigsley. Genji. I have Musgrave too. Yeah, I'm fine. Start Musgrave, Genji. Yeah, I guess. I mean, just start whoever you can think catch a touchdown this week based on.
I'd rather start Dulcich than Musgrave. Or
me too.
I mean, I think it would be like it's like Dulcich, Laporta, and then Musgrave.
Yeah,
but it's all a crapshoot because
it's just where I don't go in for this one's down, the other one's got more chances until I've seen that person can earn it with them kind of a mentality thought process. Yeah. Ty Chandler or Zach Moss in Dynasty? Moss. I don't know much about Ty Chandler. I don't care much. Moss has been solid. He's on an interestingly weak depth chart, and he could be solid even if the depth chart strengthened up. So I kind of just like rostering a Moss in that situation.
I don't want either of them, but yeah.
Moss
is banged up right now too.
Yeah,
just throwing that out there.
It's true. Kid Coop, Elijah Moore or Laporta in a 12-team Superflex startup. Zach, how would you go about breaking that down? Like a sleeper wide receiver versus a really interesting rookie prospect, that tight end. Like, that's a good trade. You're switching positions. Like, I like the setup here. I was just wondering how you go about breaking it down.
Yeah, I would have to look at what my roster looks like. It's probably at this point in the draft, because he's saying startup. At that point in the draft, it's probably Laporta for me, because I will usually go wide receiver heavy. And so when we're down at the Elijah Moore tier, I'm looking to add value at some of the positions that I've overlooked. And so it would probably be Laporta for me. And again, this is the Elijah Moore. Like, Elijah Moore is a points play to me this year, because I don't think he ever recoups value. Whereas Laporta, if he does anything, all of a sudden the Dynasty community is excited about the next tight end, even if he's not the next tight end. Like, I think he's got that potential. I think he feels a little kittleish. Like, he's a very good tight end. There are a lot of hurdles to get to a point where he's, in that upper echelon. But I think that there is an easier path to value for Laporta than there is for Moore, just because we tend to, like, the guys that had value and then lost it. It's really hard to get that back.
Yeah, as I said in my recent YouTube video, which you should check out. No, I did recently break down how I decide or try to decide what trades I'm more or less interested in. And it's the same that you said. I start with my roster. That kind of determines what trade I think is better or worse. If you need more points plays at wide receiver for interesting value, like if Moore does get points, his value improves. And that's really interesting for a team that's in the market for more points plays this season at wide receiver. In a vacuum, I'd much rather go for the younger prospect who there is less demanded of this year to maintain and is almost guaranteed to maintain value. Look at Trey McBride, and very little, in the words of positive performance this year, to increase in value. So in a vacuum in Dynasty, just give me the younger prospect at tight end, especially because of the positional shift, because that's where the value swings happen more often further down the ADP chain, and where most teams tend to be shopping for that upside more often. I think Elijah Moore's upside is capped even at wide receiver. He's never going to be a Chase or a Jamal Jefferson or anything like that. And so unless I'm specifically rostering or looking for that kind of roster move, Laporta makes more sense 9 times out of 10. But again, that's in a vacuum. And if you play differently, because that processes only work if you apply them with somewhat discipline. This is one of the things I learned from Zach. It's fine to have a good process, but if you're not willing to constantly enforce it, it just falls apart. So if you don't play like that and you play more sleeperish, and you just really like Elijah Moore and you believe in this, that, or the other, then you should just go in on that process. And so that's why I kind of alliterated it out, because unless you follow that kind of thought process every time, then you don't get it right more than 50% of the time. So just to be clear.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the thing is, if you have a process that you're not following, you don't actually have a process.
Yeah, I love to make. I love to try and do everything. Like I want to be a sleeper guy and rookie profile guy, and also positional value trends guy, and they don't all mix together all the time. So I've learned I have to separate them because I didn't.
Do it in like if you have multiple leagues, do that. Like be like, okay, this is the league where I'm the sleeper guy, and then you can almost
but like you, Zach, I'm not a. Again, that's why I learned I managed to learn from you to put that into some of my Dynasty play, because I don't have a million leagues. I don't have enough to diversify, and some people do. And you're right; that could be an excellent way of going about it. I just don't have enough leagues, nor the brain space to maintain that many leagues. I've got a John Bosch league in here. Do you know how lost I am and how much fun I get made fun of because I can't keep up? Like adding enough leagues, I can diversify. Like. I'd be dead. No, just joking. Jazz Jeff Fresh. I like Richie James tomorrow, especially if you're getting return yards. Return yards are an interesting aspect to that startability without having to bet on, is this guy a volume getter? That's interesting. Yeah. Kid Coop, in a redraft league, would you take Jameson at the end of the draft or take a chance on rookies like Tank Dell or Musgraves instead? That's a good question. I think I'd have Jameson Williams above the Tank Dell tier. And I like the Tank Dell tier and the Marvin Mims tier this year. And the Rashee Rice are all kind of a mix for me. But I think Jameson Williams, I think his value is already, to a lot of teams, it's already bigger. Despite the hype for some of my Tank Dell shares. And I think you just go with a draft capital. They actually had a relatively more solid rookie profile coming in with higher draft capital, and it's basically a rookie year for him. So I think I'd go Williams if I just had to take one. But where you're saying it's the end of the draft, you might be able to add a little bit more on the back of your roster there if you've got the roster space at wide receiver. Musgrave definitely wouldn't be it for me. While I do usually like to default to the other position towards the end of a draft, that's too high. If Jameson Williams is available, I'm probably taking that even in a redraft. Because, again, you need someone to drop, if nothing else. And wide receivers show their colors a little bit earlier. Actually, am I right on that? Sorry, I'm really messed up today, I guess. Jameson Williams, if he's a rookie prospect, you'd have to roster him with the hope that you just roster him for the first 4 weeks, right? To find out what's going on. You couldn't roster him to then be one of the first drops. Yeah, I'm wrong on that.
Well, but I think the upside, even though you were giving up 6 weeks, is still Jameson Williams. Like, and no offense to Tank Dell and no offense to the rookie tight end, but
I was specifically thinking about the tight end.
Yeah, I still think it's Jameson Williams, and like you draft him knowing that. Look, if somebody comes up that's the new hotness on the waiver wire, you can drop Jameson Williams because he's not giving you points until week 7.
Yeah.
But also, if there's nothing that comes up, you can roster Jameson Williams, and then all of a sudden you either have a bump, and even in a redraft league, I think people will get excited about him. You might be able to move him for a running back who, is producing at that point. But even if you're not able to trade him in a redraft league, you've got this player coming back who has more upside than either of the other two that you mentioned, Kid.
Like, this would be a harder decision for me if it was a tight end I was particularly keen on. Like, I'm kind of sneakily interested in his volume. Like, who's the guy we keep mentioning? Tyler Higbee or Greg Dulcich or Sam Laporta. That would be a tighter decision for me. But against a Musgrave, I'd take the upside of Williams, yeah. But again, if you have something you particularly like about the Musgrave profile that you find works, maybe you got an edge on me there. But I would take Williams over him. The position does get extra consideration down that deep, though, for me. Stephen White, Zach, I tweeted you a question a while back, and you took the time. Oh, this is a good one. I thought he was going to be mad. You took the time to give me a very thorough response. Thank you so much, bud. Yeah, Zach's good.
I appreciate you asking, Stephen. Like that's kind of what we're here for. Like it's fun and appreciate the interaction and I'm glad that I could give you at least something you could work with.
Ryan 23, do you think Jonathan Taylor will play this year? Zach just kind of ran out what he thought about it. It's a really tight window. It's going to be after week 4. It's going to be, yes, I think he'll play some games this year. No, I don't think we can depend on him this year. That's why in Dynasty, I'm more in a longer term view. On a running back, it's a little unique, but no, I don't think we can expect games. I don't think we can expect more than 8, put it that way.
Well, and look, the problem is it's not an injury. Like,
yeah,
I know he's,
and we know that.
I know he's on the IR, but he's like, nah, I'm not hurt. And the Colts are like, yeah, but we can put you here and don't have to pay you. And so they are. And then it's NFI. Yeah, it's like the NFI, the non-football injury list. So it's not. That was the real kind of shady part of it, and I think why he got mad and why there may be irreconcilable differences between the Colts and Taylor. And so again, you've got
it almost better be if their plan is to do this and then make up later. I don't see how you come back from. By the way, we've figured out a way to screw you completely, just because.
Yeah. Oh, it's a bad situation, and it's almost entirely Jim Irsay, the owner of the Colts, and even the GM was like, "Man, how can we fix this? And how do you fix it when the guy who owns the team can override you?" And
doesn't want to, apparently.
Yeah, it's wild. And then like they tried to trade him, they got offers, and then the reports back where they came and did the Dynasty, where we're like, yeah, we want Jalen Waddle and to get Jonathan Taylor.
Make such a ridiculous ask that it can't get done.
It's an auto reject. Usually without a comment.
Intentionally trying not to trade him just to IR him and screw him for his money. Like, I don't know. There's a certain point where you have to kind of recognize that the NFL can literally just screw a player over. Like, what they have is fans. Our influence is about the only thing that could possibly dissuade. If an owner just decides, well, this guy's done, I'm willing to bank the money, I'm willing to bet, and they can afford to do that, then they can just, no, this guy will struggle for the rest of his career if he's just taking the dislike to do that. And so far, all the intonations are in that direction. like cutting his nose off to spite his face. But hell, I'm not an NFL guy. I don't know the people. I'm speculating into the wind, but it's looking rough. And I don't think for fantasy, as small as that is relative to all of that stuff, I'd be expecting points this year. But there's upside, I guess, but local liability, 12-team Superflex. How do I improve my running back room? He has Dak, Kurt, Javonte, J.K. Dobbins, Singletary, Damian Pierce, Elijah Mitchell, so it's not terrible. Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Waddle, Olave, Nico Collins, and then some depth at wide receiver, and Hawkinson at tight end, so solid. What would you look at in this roster as a first idea for where you want to go try and improve your running back? Tier up some or all of these running backs. I think Aaron Jones is my first thought, by the way. Instead of getting rid of these great assets, I'm like, what can I add? Who's interested in Collins? Does he have Aaron Jones? Can I add a second to Collins, get Aaron Jones, or just trade the second straight up for him? Like those depth shots, like undervalued guys, I really think have running back one upside again. DeAndre Swift in that category as well. Like they're my first thoughts. Go find out where they're in the league. If that team's building or really interested in one of my depth players, I can just throw a second in. And that way they're technically getting too much just before the season begins to make them get something that they like. So that I can have a starting running back who wouldn't necessarily be better than Javonte or J.K. Dobbins, but you're definitely swelling your girth there a little bit, Sorry, Zach. I was trying to
No,
give you time to talk, then I realized I just blundered over your answers.
no. I think that's a great, that's a fantastic answer to, you can bolster your running back room without actually affecting the rest of your team by going and getting one of
Yeah.
those veterans who is a points producer but isn't it sexy anymore. And Aaron Jones absolutely fits that bill. The only other option to me, and I don't like to go this way because I want to get young, proven wide receivers and build my team
Right.
through young, proven wide receivers, is I still think you haven't quite seen Olave be in the Waddle, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson tier. He's being valued close to that. And so you could go get a top tier running back, but that's not, I don't want to do that. I want to, Peter.
Not really how I play, but tearing up is the other way to go.
Yeah.
So, like adding a first, I guess, to one of those depth players and it won't get done. Or you could take Olave or CD, or even Waddle, who'd be the last on my list to try it with, and try and get Bijan Robinson's at the top, then CMC and Saquon Barkley, Jameer. I don't really have Gibbs on that list.
Yeah.
And it's a really risky dynasty play, but if you're looking to get that top tier, that's what you have on your roster. And that could really make a move like that happen. And I think Bijan Robinson will be my first play if I'm going to those wide receivers, willing to trade them. I want Bijan Robinson.
I mean, to me, it's Bijan Robinson. I mean, maybe you feel good about Saquon, and then like the next player that I feel really good about is Nick Chubb at running back 8, which is like.
So I think, I think I'd be much looking at your roster, and we don't know how the running back landscape or the wide receiver landscape, although we can be a little more, okay. And dynasty value can be a little bit more certain there. I'd be more interested in swelling my girth and then see how my team rolls out through the first 4 weeks before I even consider a move like that. So I'm looking at Aaron Jones, Swift, Dameon Pierce, I think is on that value list. Nick Chubb is interesting if he's on a roster that's not competitive. Yeah, that kind of move instead of trying to go all the way up.
Or the other way you could play this is to add some of those backup running backs to go after Tank Bigsby, to go after Jamal
Roshan
Williams,
Johnson.
to go after Roshan Johnson, and add depth that way, and that actually improves it improves your running back room, and you're not paying up to do it, and you still have that kind of upward mobility when the season plays out the way it does and injuries happen and those guys start. So
I try and take, and again, those are solid, good moves to move forward. I'm less inclined to take huge swings until I know more about this season on my team and how it's competing. And I want to bet strongly against the market very little. And all of those are really, depending on who's rostering them and what they feel about your players and the value of the players you're trying to get, those are little ways to look to tear up. And that's kind of the mode I'm in entering the season in general. There are probably bigger swings that you could take that could pay off, but the higher risk Kyle Ward plays, I'm just not there yet. Especially on my team, this is a really good dynasty squad. Like you're good. There's very few ways you can end this season thinking, man, I have to rebuild this team. And so that's where I'd roughly be local liability. Sorry. I wish I could be like, just send all the firsts for, I wish I was one of those people that knew exactly, send a first for Roshan Johnson. It's going to pay off. And again, high risk, high reward bets work. But if I can't get him at value, I'd be like, okay, I'll see what the season brings. It's just kind of where I'm at. Austin Eckler and Nick Chubb are only interesting in that same regard if they're on teams that are less competitive, and you can get them basically for adding a first to Nico Collins. I mean, sure, I guess, but your top squad's solid enough, I'd still be hesitant. I'd be like, let's see what week 4 break. Maybe Javonte is one of those guys by week 4,
Yeah.
But it's potential. Sorry, didn't mean to blow that on. Ryan 23, what should I do moving forward with this team? Love those questions because that's actually the most honest dynasty question, because that's the one I always have when I look at my rosters. And so I do. I just show it to Zach or House. Like, what do I do? I've tried. I've done a lot of work, but honestly, what am I missing? Okay. So there's some filler Well, Zach, look over the roster. Looking at a roster for myself, I don't know the scoring setup here. Your tight ends are Komet and Okanoa, so that's obviously your main weakness here. Assuming it's 1 QB, because of the number of quarterback you have listed, you're good. I think Pollard looks like the easiest value flip to me in Dynasty in general. You've got aging wide receivers, though. JT, who's now just a question mark.
Yeah. So this
You're
is
in the
that
70
same team.
You go.
Oh no, no, it may not be. I thought I had it, but I don't.
What I was going to say is I think looking at this roster, you're well within that 70% of leagues. You know, the boring way I try and break it down. 15% should be highly competitive and really looking at the season, and 15% should be like completely rebuilding. And most of us are somewhere on that scale, but making mostly the same, again, tepid little weak, nerdy moves, looking for those moves, and that are fair to both teams or waiver wire moves, whatever, in trades or small waiver wire moves and roster construction. This team has highly competitive range of outcomes, but also high dynasty risk, because Diggs' value is gonna be Devontae Adams-ish, at least by the end of the season, if it's not already. AJ Brown is a little undersold in that wide receiver 2 tier because he has that upside in him, but he's, again, dynasty managers are always going to be a little skittish of the age guy next to Jalen Waddle and CeeDee Lamb. And so by the end of the season, if you don't win, if you fail to win, you should have been trying to fail to lose. And that would have been a better direction. That's what the 70% is kind of categorized for. So looking at this roster for me, assuming 1 QB, my main concern is what can I do to improve my value moving forward? And that's really my main question. So Pollard, what can I do with Tony Pollard to one of the teams that might be in that 15% of competitive teams? And is someone offering me a wealth of Jonathan Taylor right now, or was he a better hold? And that's where my mentality goes. Zach, it looks like maybe you had some better thoughts, so I can shut up while I think of specific moves I might do.
No, I think you're right. I think this is a team that you have to be in a competing window with, or you have to get out of it. You know, because you've got Keenan Allen, you've got Diggs, who is, I think he's like 29, but that, like, 29 is not the end of the world, but you can see it from there in terms of dynasty and in terms of value. And so those two are really high points producers, but you're at the end of their value. Lockett is a points producer, but doesn't have any value now. I mean, you can kind of see the future for Diggs, and honestly, Keenan Allen doesn't have very much value at this point. Your running backs are kind of transient. Pollard is fine this year, but what happens when Dallas decides to draft a running back in the first round next year, because Dallas does what Dallas does, you know, that sort of thing. And he's coming off an injury, and he's not as young as people think he is. Jonathan Taylor with this whole mess now, like, I don't necessarily see this team as being a huge competitive team. Maybe it is. I can't see your league, Ryan, but like it feels like a team that I would want to start parting out, especially once the points start happening. You know,
and again, that's an important point that Zach just said. Like, we make it sound so immediate. Your team should be building, but like, there's you don't have to make a trade today or in the next week. Like, over the next few weeks, all of these players are going to have different levels of excitement. Warren's going to have some volume on the offense, and I could be wrong, and he takes more of it than I expect from Najee. And suddenly you have this trade chip that everyone's more excited about because they just saw him play, and he's a really good player, so they're excited about it. Same with Javonte. Like, I'm saying you should be more in the, I want to set myself up for the 2024 draft is kind of where my head's at. But this is a really solid squad to head into 2023 with. You're going to put up points. You're going to be a nightmare to compete against. There's no need to desperation trade it away. I just kind of want to make that point clear. Like, even though I'm saying think more about the future than 2023, there's no need to make immediate trades because these players are good. Like, Keenan Allen's going to put up points again and be infinitely more tradable because people are going to remember that in season. But I want to be of the headset that I want to look to take advantage of that as it happens, rather than trying to race to the one spot. again, all off season I spend thinking about, well, the points are cheaper now. I want to kind of angle towards those level of trades, and now I'm angling the opposite way because the points are going to start to get more valuable to more teams in my league, and so I'm going to lean that way. As far as specific moves, I jumped all over the end of what Zach was going to say there. I think Pollard stands out to me because I can't even defeat the argument that Pollard should be great this season for leagues. And so people should be willing to pay for him and excited about it. And my first up is 24 draft capital. And it's 1 QB, so I'm not trying to get Caleb Williams, but there's a really interesting good tight end prospect or two, and that's a positional weakness on your team. And so that's where I'm thinking about it. How high of a pick can I get with something else to keep the roster fairly competitive moving forward, but try to take a shot at tight end in this year's rookie draft? Because I don't think Dolchich, maybe Laporta and Michael Mayer, there'll be interesting ways to go, but people are really excited to see their rookie seasons play out. So I don't think their value is, you're going to find great trades on them, but you might for a 24 pick thinking I'm going to try and speculate on tight end in this draft. So yeah, adding a Swift or an Aaron Jones for Pollard and a 24 first for a team that thinks it's competitive. So it'll be a bottom 5. A lot of the tight ends that go in, that should get you a tight end, and Zach would hate you taking a tight end that high, but definitely should put you in the market for a tight end. I'm
Bowers,
I get it.
Yeah, but Bowers is going to be another one of those prospects that everybody's been talking about, and it's going to be the pits. We're going to jump the shark, and
you don't have to. You wouldn't have to draft him. You could go, hey, what about that TJ Hawkinson for this Bowers pick plus? But it would put you in the running for something like that.
And honestly, there are a couple of wide receivers, and I know that Marvin Harrison. I haven't seen an update on Marvin Harrison Jr., but I know he got hurt, banged up in the end of the Ohio State game this week. But Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Egbuka, this is going to be not. This is it's not a world beater class, but it is a good class.
And again, I don't want you to go out and destroy your team, Ryan, because you're going to be a nightmare to face on a weekly basis. But Dynasty is kind of about just being not 3 years, but a couple months ahead, or trying sometimes to be a couple months ahead of everyone else, or at least that's the way I'm playing. And so that's kind of the thoughts that go around my head. What can I do right now? And the rest is how much you know about your league, where you know your league, which team is in which mode. Like, is there a team out there just pummeling Ezekiel Elliott shares? And that's a team to go off of Tony Pollard to. If that team isn't in your league, then just let it play out, because I think you're going to have a good starting lineup and have a fun time in 23.
Zeke's a Patriot now. I
mean, he's obviously going to be great. Yeah. Sorry, I don't have more specific ideas, but this team's a strong kind of play it by ear team. Like, I don't see anyone that's like, oh, get rid of that guy right now.
You're seriously mid, which is a hard place to be. It's a hard place. Well, it is. It's a hard place to get out. Like, you're building around Burrow in a one quarterback, assuming this is one quarterback, which it's nice to have Burrow, but that you're playing from a position of weakness because it's a onesie position, and he's not Josh Allen. He's not Jalen Hurts. He's not Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, running back's probably his highest dynasty asset, whereas Burrow's the thing that would be the difference maker if it was a super flex. Yeah, I see what you mean.
So, I still think I'd be trying to move and get younger and get value. And when Pollard starts producing, you can trade him for a first and a wide receiver 2. And or a running back 2, doesn't matter. And then when Javonte Williams comes back, and all of a sudden that's going to be the next big thing, because Sean Payton's offense and Javonte Williams is a really good player. Maybe all of a sudden you can get a first and another piece, and if you can stack that up, I think that's you're going to be happier with that.
I think I'll spend longer on this question because it is all questions, to be honest with you, than we do with the Rate My League show. So I don't want to belabor the point here, right? But yeah, the trades flow from that. You got to look at your league. Like, you've got Diggs. That's something someone should really want. Which teams, what do they have? Do they have Jahan Dotson on a first? That's a terrible trade. except it would improve your long-term prospects and put you in line for all that good stuff we said in 24. You've got AJ Brown. How about a CD Lamb trade? It's a person rostering CD Lamb. Like AJ Brown has more upside, I think, or the Jalen Waddle or what other young wide receiver? Olave. Could I get Olave plus a first for AJ Brown? That would be a fair trade to another team, and it pushes your team closer to the direction I think it should be running. But that's all same positional trade. So, okay, they don't want to do that. What else do they have on their roster that I can? And so that's why I don't have specific ideas, because your players are all well valued mostly, and it's mostly about what the other teams in your league, where they're at, where their heads at on the ranks too. Hopefully some of that helps. I don't know. Kid Coop just did a Dynasty 12-team startup, Superflex, and had the 2 pick. Went Allen, but built a productive struggle after. Hold on to Allen or look to move him for Lawrence, Herbert, and a first in order to tank. I don't think you'll be tanking much worse with Lawrence or Herbert, but that's a solid productive struggle move. Yeah, Lawrence, I prefer Herbert, but he's probably valued pretty close to Allen, to be fair. But yeah, if you can get a plus on either, pretty solid productive struggle move.
Yeah, and honestly, I think Herbert is the way that I would go, because I have more faith in Herbert to be closer to that upper echelon than I do Lawrence, even though we think Lawrence is going to take another step forward this year. I like Herbert's going to throw the ball 700 times. He's going to. And his offense is just Quentin Johnston better than it was last year, which is not insignificant. And to get a first and get Herbert, I don't think you're moving down as much from Allen as you might think, and you get a first.
Yeah. If you're full productive struggling, though, like I prefer Herbert, then Lawrence, and I put Dak in the middle of them, by the way. I'd rather have Dak than Lawrence, with a first plus or a good plus on top. But if you're full productive struggling, just spitballing, because I don't really build that way consistently, so maybe I'm wrong. When you think about Kyler Murray, that would really help your ability not to score points this year, give you that future trade ability, hopefully at some point, and the potential top 5 upside. If not, would that be a move? If you're fully going, I need the 101 this year.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I don't know. I'd rather have Herbert in hand and take my chances with what I end up with. But yeah. I do like to your point, like it's maybe that's why we've got the air grammar around tank, because you're not actually tanking if you go get Herbert or Lawrence. I mean, like it's if you're gonna tank, go get maybe 2 firsts on top of Kyler because his value's depressed.
You could go JSN. Injured for the first 6 weeks. People are questioning what he's going to do this season. Is he on a competitive roster? They'd love Allen. And you could get so much on top of you should be able to, or don't do the trade, on top of a JSN or an Addison. And then you're vacating quarterback entirely in the hopes of getting the 101. So you're going to replenish it in this year's draft because Caleb Williams meant to be everything. Like it depends how much those air quotes are true. Like if you want to lean into it fully, there are a lot of different ways you can do it. I don't play that way particularly. I'm more, again, I tend to be a cautious dynasty owner, so I'm like you. I'd more trade for Herbert plus anything, Dak plus a first, Lawrence plus a first, and feel pretty comfortable I'm moving in the right direction. Again, I don't want to. For some reason, I've gotten overly loquacious on these questions. I'm not going to belabor the point for 30 minutes again. Especially because, we're trying to get out of here by 11 tonight, to be honest with you guys. Open 24 hours. Hey now, working a trade, giving the 110, trying to get Pickens and James Cook. Why James Cook? But okay. He offered Pickens and Sky Moore and Algier for my 110. I think I'd trade the 110 for Pickens straight up, to be honest. In a Superflex. It's a little tighter in a Superflex, but I think I'd do it. So I don't mind what plus you get. I'd rather have, I don't care. Between Sky Moore, I guess Algier is the most interesting, but James Cook has more value. But yeah, the 110 for Pickens would be even to me. So getting a plus on top. I would do those deals. And if that's what he's offering, I'm comfortable with it. I think Pickens is better than the 110. But if James Cook's your god, your goal, then you're not getting it. But I don't think you should want James Cook that much. But yeah, I would take that other trade personally. Super contender, won last year and got awesome. That's great to hear. Open 24 hours. Keep it up. You guys have definitely earned a follow. Thanks very much, Ryan.
Appreciate you.
We
Ryan.
really appreciate the support and the views and the interaction and the follows and stuff. But honestly, it's about the interaction. We just want to talk football with you a little while. So yeah, you're good. Really appreciate you, man. Open 24 hours. Any interest in Shahid? Not particularly. Considering MT's health, I'm interested in MT because people are concerned about MT's health. I kind of go the other direction on it. Again, I'm not very into his rookie profile, and I haven't seen him earn volume or have a reason to believe he can earn volume in the NFL. So I'm not going to believe the targets vacate just because. I'm not saying you do, but I'm not interested in the depth add around an injured wide receiver in general, unless there's something about that receiver that sparks off for me in his profile. And Shahid isn't one of those guys, so I could be wrong, but that's where I'm at. I don't think he's ever more than a wide receiver 3 in Dynasty. If you're talking about Shahid, MT has a lot more upside. What would you pay to get him, trade for him? I wouldn't. I'd be interested in trading for MT. So sorry to go that direction on you. Zach, are you kind of in the same place, or is there any Shahid interest?
We've seen Michael Thomas be the wide receiver 1. We've seen Rashid Shaheed be like a wide receiver 2 or 3 on a team occasionally. I don't think there's much, even though Michael Thomas has had health issues and he spent 2 years recovering from a toe injury, and people think he's soft and people think he's a diva. All of that can be true. He's still got more talent in his little finger than Shahid will ever have.
I mean, Antonio Brown had legitimate issues pretty clearly at this point, and yet still the one game he came back and played, he was a top 12 wide receiver. For fantasy, it's an awkward truth. Odd doesn't mean bad necessarily. If you want to go for that kind of play, the upside wide receiver at that kind of second plus, second minus really volume, the players that we like in that range, I really like Rashad Bateman in that range, Rondell Moore, but they're both longer-term plays by the look of it at this point, and that's awkward for players who haven't done anything yet. And so outside of the old guys, it's these rookies we're talking about. We like Marvin Mims a little bit. We like Rashee Rice a little bit more. I like Tank Dell kind of less than both, but I still do like him in that range. And if you desperately need opportunity available on the depth chart arguments, which I really insist that you don't, but Rashee Rice, you could easily make that argument for, or Justin Ross. I'd be interested in both on that roster just because of what they did in college. But if you had to make opportunity arguments, there's one readily available right now. If you believe in that kind of thing, or you agree with that kind of process, don't mean to make it sound like a religion, but so yeah, I would be interested in other wide receivers for that kind of upside, and in this situation, MT. Hey guys, thoughts on Tillman? Potential or just another guy? I think Tillman and Jalen Hyatt are awkward for me because I don't see it for Dynasty long term, but I've been plenty wrong before, as I could be with Shahid. But I thought they were more solid than the fact that they're barely considered in Dynasty right now, like their third, fourth round picks. And I think that's really interesting for what they did in college. I think they have game by game upside on those offenses. I definitely think they could have their windows, but I don't see them ever co-opting top 24 level production year over year. But yeah, as rookies, I definitely think they're rosterable, which again, I try and be as tight as possible with my wide receiver depth. And so that's over a significant line for me. Is there one in particular, Tillman in particular for you interesting, Zach? Third round pick, short, rosterable, or is it?
I mean, he's fine. I think he was like my wide receiver. I'd have to look. I think he was my wide receiver 7 or 8.
Right.
He's a straight line guy. He's in an offense in Cleveland that's like reasonably open in terms of you got Amari Cooper and then yeah. So I don't think that he's a bad ad. I lied. He was further down than that, but he was
not targeting him. But if you get him for a third, we'd be like, oh yeah, that's a good.
I'm not interested in Tillman, but he's not somebody that I'm going out of my way to go add. I would much rather pay less and go get Keyshawn Booty because I think that he was a better player, and why he fell didn't have as much to do with football. And so if he sticks, I think he's a better player.
And just to throw it out here, because I rarely remember to say it, not to step all over you again, Zach. Josh Downs. I keep forgetting he's in this tier of wide receiver, and he was my preference going into the rookie draft. Like, I drafted him over and Rashee Rice looks more in line to have a value window anytime soon. And Zach likes him a lot, so I've been freely defaulting to Rashee Rice. But Josh Downs, like, the talk died off. There's for reasons I wish he'd done more to hype himself up this preseason and stuff. But like, I really like Josh Downs' profile, and if he's falling below that tier, like, so you can get him for in and around that value, Josh Downs would be the guy I'd go for over Tillman or Hyatt or. I just wanted to throw his name out again. It's been a while since I said it, and I like the name, Josh Downs. Pretty good college receiver. Just saying. Robert Tolman, send Bajan and a second get Chase. Is that enough? I mean, if you can trade for Chase, I guess.
I mean, I'd rather have Chase in that situation, but
yeah,
it's not
by the end of the season. It might be a tough call. So if you at all need running back or competitive at all, you take the running back, I guess. But yeah, I think by and large, 9 times out of 10, I'd take Chase. Yeah. Thank you, Robert. Mike Oxlong, 12-team 1 QB start 8. Give Diggs and a 24 first, get Olave. Only if you're really building. Like, you're on that slider bar, you're closer to building than that 70% of leagues. I would still probably lean Olave in the first. In fact, that'd probably be a really good trade for Diggs on a team like that. Whereas if you're highly competitive, I expect a lot more from Diggs this season. But in Dynasty, you probably just take the value. So, yeah, Olave probably better here, but it's pretty even. Yeah.
Man, I don't know.
You prefer Diggs, but you got to know that Olave is more tradable by the end of the season than both combined.
Well, maybe. I mean, depends on what Olave does, and it depends on where that first is. I
think he finishes the top 20. Well, that's true. Mike Thomas we're in on, so I think he'll still be fine. I think he could be a Michael Pittman. Yeah, I'm dithering here. I think it's very even. It's a. I'll let how terrible my roster is, but you're giving away a first, so I can't even say that. It's a start 8. I don't think Olave has Diggs upside ever, so I'm going to go with Diggs at the first.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. I guess I'm out on Olave all of a sudden. Thank you, Mike. You're going to get me receded by the end of the season for that one, but I'm keeping Diggs in the first there. Rambo, who is your my guys this year? I've been thinking about that a lot. I don't have as nearly as many trains as I usually have, or ones at the top of my head, especially since Rashad Bateman's looking rough right now, fellas. So is Rondale Moore because of the Arizona off. It's all offensive trends instead of player trends, and I hate it. Pick one RB and one wide receiver as ranked 24 or lower, that can finish top 12. In ranked where? Because if you give us dynasty ranks, we can just default to, like, I think Calvin Ridley's there now, but Michael Thomas, and we'll go the vets. Keenan Allen's probably borderline top 24 at this point. But if you're thinking season long, I tell you what, I'll use my consensus ranks. How's that? Okay. Top 24 consensus ranked wide receivers in week 1. Outside of the top 24 wide receiver, and Mike Evans is outside the top 24 consensus right now. So is Michael Pittman. That seems a little too cheap. Deontay Johnson. I don't think that's the kind of name you're really looking for. Can finish top 12 this season. I think I just ran through all the names I like for that. And I said no to him because they're too cheap. No, he's just inside. I was going to say Deebo Samuel. Terry McLaurin's just inside. I guess everyone else is going to default to Jerry Jeudy, but I don't like it.
I mean, like, Madison is going to be a top
At running back?
24. Yeah, at running back. I don't know if he can be top 12, but he's gonna be a value, and he's ranked low because he's not been very good. He's been a backup. So and obviously not in redraft, but that's a dynasty thing.
I hate this because it's a rookie and I'm meant to be avoiding that kind of bet, but the one name that keeps pulling my eye to it outside the top 24 in consensus right now, Jordan Addison.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's fantastic. Amari Cooper is the other one. To me, is going to be a top 12.
Okay.
Who's not like, he's not valued like that. And again, I'm looking at dynasty ranks, not redraft. So if this is a redraft question, I apologize. But
yeah, again, we want to apply too many asterisks and definitions here. But I'm probably, if you allow me, I'll default to my rookie that I'm really interested in, which is Jordan Addison. At running back, Alexander Madison's a good one because Zach said it. It's going to be a good one. Where is he? The guy I'm thinking of, is he outside the top 24? Probably not. No. Okay. Swift.
Yeah,
why
that's
not?
a good one.
I'll finally be the guy saying top 12 for DeAndre Swift. I've not been that guy till now, but yeah, I'll take that right. Yeah. If you want to say specific ranks, we can. I know neither of them are easy or cheap in Dynasty, but those are the two I'll default to. Good question. Made me think.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, Dave. Thanks for the off-season help, guys.
I miss Dave. I got a great hug from Dave at the expo, and he's always like, Dave is always one of the highlights of being over there.
Hugs do make the world go round. Ooh, Roshan Johnson.
I mean, Peter. I'm not a hugger by trade. Like, but there are a few people I make an exception for.
Thanks for your season help, guys. Good luck this season. You too, Rambo. And thanks for keeping us entertained all our season, to be honest with you, because this is what we do for fun. So really appreciate you helping us out with that. Thoughts on Puka? I don't like it. I don't like the profile that much. I don't believe the hype. No, not for me. Sorry.
Yeah,
I wish I could get more hype. All the sleepers, I'm like, nah. Why do I have to be so nerdish about it?
The cool thing about Puka Nacua, though, is right now, if you have him rostered, there's going to be a ton of hype, and you're going to be able to move him.
I know Derek Brown's in. He's a pretty sharp fantasy guy. Maybe I'm wrong, but personally, I didn't see enough in the profile that I was like, oh, I really saw a lot of upside here. Happy to change my mind, though, because we need more of those. Stephen White, 12 teams, Superflex, start 9. Give a 24 first, projected late, okay, mid. 25 second, and Zach Wilson, get Kyler. Yeah, I'm still taking the Kyler Murray bet for long term because I think he's got top 5 in his range of outcomes when he starts for someone somewhere, if not Arizona eventually. So yeah, that's essentially a first for Kyler for me, and I'd do that. And I'm thinking of it as a mid first in a Superflex. You still there?
I'm here.
Like a first? No, I mean like a first and a second for Kyle is pretty strong at this point because it's looking weird in Arizona.
Yeah, but
I'd still do it.
Look, he may not be in Arizona. I know he's got a big contract, but they're angling toward a top pick.
Man.
There's already precedents in the NFL moving on. I know it's a different, like the organization has changed in Arizona, but like that's still potentially a thing. But yeah, like I
still do it though.
Hold on. But Zach Wilson, are you willing to give up Zach? Okay, sorry, Peter.
I would probably give him a little extra for rostering Zach Wilson. Like I'll throw you in a third if you take Zach Wilson. Fantasy Condo. Hey guys, I completed a trade over the weekend. Congrats. It's not as easy to do as sometimes it gets made to be seen in my experience. 10 teams who flex half point PPR, start 12. Give Zach Moss, and I'm assuming that's Deion Jackson, Jameson Williams, I think Marvin Mims. I'm not up to date on the abbreviations. I apologize. And a 24 first. Receive Ayuk, Keenan Allen. You just got hella competitive, and I think you have more value already. So yeah, I like that trade a lot. You gave a package of for really good wide receivers. Yeah, I like that. Brandon, PPR start 11, rebuilding. Give Trevor Lawrence and Swift, and a 24 third. Okay. For Mac Jones, JSN, Dubs, a late 24 third. Okay, all right, let me resum this. Trevor Lawrence and Swift. For Mac Jones, JSN, Dubs, and 2 firsts. 24 and 25. Yeah. So the first is... Yeah. Okay. So Trevor Lawrence... Trevor Lawrence is worth Mac Jones and the 2 firsts. So it's JSN and Dubs, who I don't mind, for Swift and for Swift. I'd rather have JSN. So yeah, it's a JSN side by a nose. Trevor Lawrence is probably the best thing in that trade, though.
He is, but you're getting
the 2
firsts and Mac Jones, even if they're late. I mean, you don't necessarily know that they're late. I still think it's it's the JSN side in a rebuild. In a rebuild, that's the JSN side, and the other team's getting Trevor Lawrence, so they should be pretty happy to give up that value. I think it's a really good trade, and you got the right side of it for your team. So yeah, definitely. Fantasy Condo. I think I just got that reference. 2 out of 2. I think I missed the first one. Oh no, the first one was up there. It's like a mansion, but smaller, and you gotta pay, condo fees and that sort of thing. There's an association.
Yeah, there's an association. A manager in my league was upset about the trade to the point where he was calling for it to be vetoed. Is that one-sided? I mean, I thought you heavily won that trade. I don't believe in vetoes, and I don't think it's far enough off that I would consider it to be overturnable. No. Like, it has to be devastatingly bad. No, I'd even consider it because I don't really consider him. Like I said, I think you heavily won it. He's right to be like, oh, I would have done that better for you. But no. Nowhere close. Personally. First time Dynasty League, Superflex, PPR, tight end premium. Trevor Lawrence, Najee Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, St. Brown, like it. McLaurin, Pickens, Hawkinson, Brian Robinson, and Elijah Moore. No question attached. I guess it's a what do you think of the roster so far kind of a question. For Bo Pons. Hey, Bo. I think it's really solid. I'm wondering who your QB2 is in a Superflex. Like, that would make it extra shiny. But I love Harris and Stevenson are both really solid values right now. If that's on Ross St. Brown and McLaurin and Pickens, I think you're doing pretty well at wide receiver. Tight ends, Hawkinson, which is literally just you're good. It's fine. I'm not overly excited, but it's really solid. It's a mid sticker at tight end. It's like yeah, no problems here. Brian Robinson is a really interesting running back depth behind those others. Again, it's your quarterback 2 that's really going to push you up and down for me, though. 12-team, 1 QB, start 8. Give London and a 24 first to get Olave. I think we had this one earlier, Mike, and I ended up just... Oh, no, you said...
No, this is London. London. This one, I think I'd rather have Olave.
Yeah.
But again,
was what was making it difficult in the last one. Yeah.
Yep.
Agreed.
Just because, to me, Olave is... I'm a lot more confident in Olave as a player than I am in London as a player.
For this season, especially. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think a first value between them is pretty close. I mean, it depends on where the first is. If it's a top 3 first, then it's the London and the first side, because you're either going to get a quarterback in one quarterback, you're getting one of the top 2 receivers or one of the stud tight ends or whatever it is that. But if it's a you look at the other team and you're like, they're fine. Like, if it's a mid first or later, it's all. And I always assume when we're looking at a trade like this, I always assume a mid. So 106, 107, that's kind of where I assume. In a 1 quarterback league, the talent's going to be further toward the top of the draft, the skill position talent, because you're not going to have the quarterbacks go. So it's Olave.
Yeah, it was a start 8 for me that was doing it with Diggs. Like, that's really important, I think, when you need more studs. With Olave and London, I think they're both pretty good. I think they both have good upside. I don't see a large disparity in their upside. Probably proven wrong at some point, but not that I can predict. And so I just side with the player I prefer a little bit, or was high ranked in Dynasty a little bit. That's Olave. Would you rather have Swift or James Cook long-term Dynasty? Swift. Like, I think we're done with the James Cook value arc by the end of the season. Where Swift, I expect to score. It's a points bet. Long term, one of them has to score points. If neither of them score points, they're both probably dead in the water dynasty wise. If only one scores points, that's a guy that you wanted value wise as well. And that's what the long term consideration is. And I think I'd lean Swift on that, especially relative to where their hype or value is right now. So yeah. DeAndre Swift. I've become a DeAndre Swift guy. Never saw it coming.
I'd rather have DeAndre Swift than James Cook anyway. Like,
yeah, better prospects, cheaper, similar. Gotta expect similar usage, and that's an upside case for James Cook, where I've seen Swift do it, if injured sometimes or repeatedly. So I just take Swift. Got the probable 112 in a trade. Been trying to package it or trade it outright, but no biters. Ideas. Be patient. Unfortunately, that's like 99% of the best Dynasty answers, in my opinion, the way I try and play is, be patient. Or you're looking for what do the teams in your league look like? Go look at the rebuilding teams, the teams that clearly are trying to build, not the ones you think are bad, because they might think differently, but the ones that are strongly like, hey, I'm selling, let's go. So a first is a first to them, or that's the mentality I would generally have when I'm building, and go see what they have. Is there a young points bet player that you think could really help your roster increase in value?
Use it to package and tear up too. Like, you have a second tier player, you add a first, they're not looking that it's the 112. 112 is underwhelming every year, Steven. That's
a really good point, Stephen. We only really remember that when we get to rookie season, but it's a really good consideration now, as long as you remember we don't project who's going to finish where very well. Like, the top 3 picks are just fundamentally different than every other first round pick. The top 6 picks, just rough categories, are worth fundamentally different than the top 12. And the last 6 picks are kind of high seconds in a way. Like, even in a deep class, this was a really deep class in terms of upside ranges of outcomes through the first 6 players. In a super flex, it's kind of insane. 2024 is meant to be a really solid draft, though, especially in a super flex. And so you should have similar boundaries. Like, just go early, mid, late, though, if you're going to project them. Because, again, from what I've been told by people who have actively tried, because I haven't done that research, tend to struggle with doing any better than mid, late, early. But yeah. Again, injuries are going to make that 112 pick suddenly the 106, and it's a different class of picks, But yeah, Watson Dotson there a few years ago. Yeah, and normally you're taking Devin A-Chain, or you're taking the shot on James Cook, or it's a late round running back. It's an okay pick.
Yeah, even Watson Dotson they're fine, but it's not like.
Those are 2 really strong classes, I'll point out. Like, that's a really good pick at the 112.
And the other thing, Stephen, is like each individual draft class is its own ecosystem. So, and each individual draft in your leagues are their own ecosystem. Like, if you had been in a league with me in 2020, even though Justin Jefferson was going routinely at the 108, 109, 110, if I couldn't trade back down to there, you would have seen Justin Jefferson go at 102, 103, 104, like that. Like, and again, that's not to be like, hey, I was in on Justin Jefferson, but like I did that with Burks too. Even though Burks fell, like I would still go get Treylon Burks. If I hadn't been a AJ Brown guy, it would have been N'Keal Harry. Like, he was my 2. Like, that would have been, if I was in a draft where AJ Brown was gone and N'Keal Harry was still there, if I couldn't trade back, that would have been my pick. So
everyone's got a dynasty nightmare story of where they learned to hold strong evaluations weekly in rookie drafts because I traded into this click, I played it for the season, and everyone went before me. I ended up Rashad Penny in the mid first round because that was the best I could get. Like that was mine personally, and where I couldn't get the wide receiver I wanted because Penny was the best pick. It was just the best pick, and then Penny happened. So yeah. I mean, it's good to make estimations, but hold them weekly. And again, to walk away with a Watson or a Dotson from a 112, like those are the best. That's the best possible outcome in 5 draft classes. Mostly it's just James Cook is literally who people are holding with that late first. It's okay. There's upside there, but there's percentage chances of it being terrible or nothing or just something you're hoping to trade eventually by the end of the first season are much higher. Notice too late before trading away Jordan Love. Goff, Russ, Trevor Lawrence all have a week 9 bye. Trade to make a swap now or wait till near the week. Unless it's a best ball, I'm not strongly tilting over it. Like a single week quarterback loss isn't as concerning. In best ball, I know there's big problems around having a week bye, apparently. Let's see. Yeah, I would make a move now because in Dynasty, if we're talking a Dynasty, there are some interesting QB values further down that you could probably get away with. Goff into Sam Howell. If he doesn't have a week 9 bye, I actually don't know who has a week 9 bye. Purdy. And I consider him to have similar value, but you could offset that by maybe going a little bit of that Dynasty value upside. A move like that, but I'm mostly thinking about the value, not thinking about the week 9 bye problem. Do you make strong adjustments because of your weekly schedule? Even in a redraft, no. I don't tend to overemphasize it.
It would be tough not to have a quarterback for a week, but
yeah,
I generally
Didn't you win a whole league by not having one for a season?
I mean, look, I had Roethlisberger.
Isn't that Jaron McKinnon
left-handed? Yeah, yeah. They're like, who was your super flex? And like the list of it's bad. But again, that's in tight end preview. So it depends on your league. Like it really does. But yeah, that's not ideal, but week 9 is better than having it be like week 13. But
yeah. Single quarterback. Dynasty triangle. Pyramid? Oh, it is a dynasty. Okay, that's a dynasty up arrow. Yeah. I don't know why I'm an idiot.
So I'm not single.
Yeah.
So single quarterback, like whatever. Like make a move. Like Peter said, trade Goff and get somebody or like I don't or honestly wait until because if you've got Aiden O'Connell, maybe he's starting in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
By that time. Like
I'd make a decent trade if I could, but that's always true. But you're not like you don't have to force the issue. Maybe is the way I'm trying to say it. Yet you got like 9 weeks. Who knows what shakes out? Josh, I've noticed in 10 team I've gone running back heavy. Any thoughts? I can't seem to avoid Taylor in the 6th or Hall when falling. Hall better than Taylor right now because it's looking a little rough. I think even the 6th in a redraft is really well. You didn't say redraft; you said 10 team. I think running back is a really interesting way to build this year, but you're taking a lot of risk, and you know the risks you're taking. I think Hall's solid. You're going to be happy with that. Taylor, God, I hope we're okay. I hope he's okay. But yeah, no, it's just unpredictable. I think the smaller the rosters, the smaller the starter, the more inclined I get to those high risk reward bets, and that could lend you towards running back. I don't think it's impossible to win going that way. I actually think it could be really sharp based on but it's draft dependent.
It's absolutely really sharp right now. If everyone's going, everyone's going wide receiver heavy after the first 4 wide receivers. Well, maybe 6, but it's not as heavy as people think.
Yeah,
and the top 6 or 8
neither's
running
quarterback and people. Yeah, so you can get some really good values on them. Yeah. And Hall outside the whatever is a great pick. Rico Dow. I don't know if I meant to say all that as one word, but there you go. 12 teams who flex. Start 12. Wide receivers are Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Stephen Diggs. I'm really a little worried about Devontae Adams, but there's little you can do about it in Dynasty unless you want to go build mode on it. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Elijah Moore, Nico Collins, Jacoby. Should I trade the presumed 111, 112 for Goblin? No, Goblin wouldn't be how I'm looking to improve this roster. Your wide receiver's the strength already, and he's not one of those young guys. I think it's solid. I'd trade Godwin for the 111, 112, but I'd be looking to see if I could improve an area of weakness on my roster first. But that's a very good trade if that's the best trade you can get. So yeah. I'm hoping it can prolong my championship run. I don't think it's going to hurt it. And Goblin's going to be fine for a couple of years here. So in a dynasty, it's fine. But like I say, if I've got another area of serious weakness, like my QB2, or I could tear up my QB1, or I could improve my tight end somehow because that's a weak position, that's what I want to do first with that late first. But adding Godwin's fine too.
But I mean, but how many wide receivers can you start? I know it's start 12, but you got Tyreek, Devontae, Diggs, St. Brown. That's 4.
It's probably going to be tough to start him. Yeah, that's what I mean.
So yeah, so giving up first round picks for a depth piece, I don't want to do that. I think you can
look to improve your weekly points per game first.
Yeah,
I guess would be our consensus here. If not a first, what would you all say? No, I think that's very fair value for Godwin. And like I said, a fairly even trade. I'm just not sure about it being the best move for your team, but you know your team better and your league better than me. I can just offer, outside pitches from the bleachers, as it were. Jazz, your wide receivers already look good, Rico. They do. He's done a good job. Oh, well, if in a super flex you really need to improve quarterback, I would start there on a competitive roster, man. Dak Prescott, he's the first one that comes to mind. Obviously, you want Mahomes and Allen and Trevor Lawrence, but Dak Prescott is the one in there, the one old guy in there that people kind of underrate. So look to see what that team looks like. And if you could get a first plus whatever your quarterback is, try and up that upside, if you're quarterback 1 or 2, that'd be the first place I'd try looking. I'm interested in your conversation between Andrews versus Pitts. Who's your top tier dynasty tight ends? Or your general strategy in dynasty? Right, Zach?
Kelsey, Andrews, Kittle, Pitts, Waller. Is that where we're at?
I'm
maybe Waller. Maybe Hawkinson. Waller's not in dynasty. So I still have Hawkinson over Freiermuth, but that's fine. They're in the same tier. They're.
I got a lot of content on tight end. It's a position I like playing a lot because people underrate it and try and play it too strongly and too weakly in some ways. I really like the middle class of tight ends right now. I think they're underrated because I think the position's due for a turnover a little bit. Not because Kelsey's injured, but because we haven't seen as many tight end breakouts as we traditionally see, especially those top ends. Like it's been Kelsey and nothing else for a while. But tight ends are weird. And so I don't want to make too strong a bets on them. I think we have a lot of good, decent tight ends right now. It's been a while since we had a really solid middle class, like a Jason Witten, Antonio Gates era. And I'm really happy to just have a Hawkinson or a Goddard, or I think Pat Freiermuth belongs in there too. Outside of that, I think Kittle's a guy with that, not Kelsey upside, but Kelsey light upside, that can be traded for a little more easily because people really hated what happened last year when he was healthy, when he was playing but not healthy, so not getting points, and they remembered that. Outside of that, Waller, like Zach said, and Ingram are just like, that's my bottom line. I'm pretty happy rostering either. I think Tyler Higbee for nothing is just solid. As Andrews and Kelsey, there's very little separation in terms of value. Like Kelsey is a guy with a proven points. Andrews is the only other guy who's had anything like that since he's been in the league. But he's a little younger, and so that keeps him in a pretty close value in Dynasty. Right now, I'm playing the position the way I always have. The moves I just said about the players that I want, or I'm scattershotting it, especially this year's rookie class. It's a really interesting rookie class. I like Sam Laporta. I really like Dalton Kincaid is really high ranked in rookie drafts, but where I've gotten them, I feel pretty confident in it because the value tends to hold at tight end, if not improve. And Michael Myers really solid ad this year. There's some interesting depth swings as well. Greg Dolchich. There's a lot of interesting young prospects where the position is due for a lot of turnover. I think that I'm taking a lot of scattershot approaches on a lot of my dynasty rosters. That's about all I got, in a too long didn't read version on the dynasty grind. QBs are Rodgers, Carr, Purdy. I think that's solid for a competitive team, but you can improve. Like if I could tear any of them up into someone I think scores more points, like Carr into Dak, depending on what the Dak roster looks like. Yeah, those are the type of moves I try first. They're less likely to get done, but it's the area you need to improve. That QB2. Purdy could be it, to be fair. We really don't know. He's like a Sam Howell bet, I guess. But yeah, I would try and tier one of those up for whatever your rankings are first. Also, I forgot to ask, how were your all's day? Oh, thank you very much. Pretty second. No, it's fine.
Every day is every day, Rico. It just is.
It's better for me and him, I mean. We're going to have to jetson. And starting to sweat Waddle. I don't know why, before I read the rest of this, but I've been feeling uneasy about Waddle lately. And I don't know why. Maybe it's all the Tua hype. And I always hate it when a player's getting hyped up for revenge narratives or some such. Just doesn't. What? But I'm not scared of him. I roster a lot of Waddle. Maybe that's why. Limited in practice. Oh, you mean for this specific week? No idea. Pickens versus San Francisco and said, no, I'd still have Waddle scheduled unless, the news comes out that he's going to sit. Especially week one, I'm going to assume health unless stated otherwise. But, check the projections. I'm updating them as often as I can.
Yeah. If he's playing, play him.
Week one, I'm not trying to make a brain too yet for. Or Sutton. No, it's a Waddle. I got an offer 25 first, Elijah Moore and Carr for Tua. I'd much rather have Tua. Carr. Yeah. I think that's solid. Yeah. Generic sports fan 123. Hey, a fellow generic sports fan. 10-team start 9, 2 QB league. Is a wide receiver core with Olave, Metcalf, Devontae Smith, Mike Williams, Ridley, and JSN high-end enough to contend for a championship, or do I need one? You don't need Jefferson or Chase. It depends on the rest of your roster, but there's no reason you shouldn't be competitive just based on the wide receivers. I think that's
pretty flipping good.
I like it, actually. I like it a lot. 25 first might be early. I try not to project 1 year out, so I'm probably going to assume mid 2 years out. Half PPR. What's your strategy running back heavy versus wide receiver? I went wide receiver heavy with young running backs, but I can't get over the hump yet.
I mean, it really depends on how your draft goes. I like to go wide receiver heavy, but in a half point PPR, it sways it just a little bit back to running backs. But the way I usually build is wide receivers, like young proven wide receivers in the draft. So go get as many of them as you can. Tight end, I like to go with, especially if I'm in a tight end premium, but even if I'm not, I want one of the top tier tight ends. I want, probably right now, I want Mark Andrews, but like Kelsey, Andrews, Kittle, Pitts, I want to go get more, that tier of tight end. I want to have a pretty decent quarterback, and then I'll scattershot running backs to quote Peter quoting me on tight ends. But that's what I'll do is just, whatever I can piece together for running backs until I'm ready to be competitive. And then I will identify draft classes, attack running backs in draft classes, and use that. And then if I hit on running backs, it's 2 years, max 3 years, and I'm trading them to get young, proven wide receivers and starting it all over again.
I very much want to stay flexible and adjust to the draft. Like Zach said, if I have a default, it's very similar. So Dynasty default should be like you've done, young wide receivers, and look for young running backs, or just fade the running back position a little bit. But generally, my only thought on building, especially from the startup, is I try to zig when they zag, I guess is a pathetic way of saying it. I'm looking to create a known weakness and try to build strength everywhere else so I know what I'm trying to improve and I can just focus on it. So that depends on what the draft gives you. If the draft is all over wide receivers and quarterbacks, which it is right now, I'm going to fade that a little bit for building strength at tight end and quarterback, or the opposite, running back. And then I'm going to go looking for the best areas to try and find edges to improve that known weakness. I guess that's my only general idea on that I'll try and apply in every draft. It doesn't always work out that way. But my Patreon league on Sleeper, I hate Sleeper, by the way, but they made me draft on Sleeper. That's kind of the way it worked out. I'm a lot more running back heavy in that league because, again, they all know the basics, are very good Dynasty players, and they've built really good squads that all look like better contenders when they rate them in the Rate My League algorithm or whatever calculators they're using, and they like to remind me of that. But it's because of the way the draft went. I ended up like 3 starting running backs, which is very unusual for me. And I did get a good young wide receiver, and I think I ended up with Jalen Waddle again because I tend to be higher on him. But I just tried to create strength somewhere and a known weakness somewhere, and that's where the draft led me to having stronger running backs than usual. As for your process, man, I wouldn't. If you're following a process well, and it's a decent process, which this is just as a one-line sentence, is solid. The reason it's solid is because we really don't know the future. We really struggle to predict 1 week, let alone 1 year out. And so the ideal process gives you a good shot to be a contender, but infinitely able to adjust to what the season brings. So you haven't quite made it in it yet, not because you went this way with heavy running, with young running backs and went wide receiver heavy, but just because that's not what the NFL brought us. But because you went heavy wide receiver and young running backs, you still have a lot of value on your roster, I'd assume, which means you can make moves to try and improve based on what the next season brings us and so on and so forth. Good Dynasty process is about building your squad that sets you up to keep making those moves as successfully as you can, not one that immediately wins you a championship or definitely guarantees you more wins over the long haul. Although, again, some Dynasty processes are literally designed to squash a league, have all the value and stuff like that. But I tend to think about it more as, am I constantly able to make trades and moves that I need to get where I think I should be for an individual season while still being able to do it further down the line as well. It's about value and points per game balance. But yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with the one-line process as you stated it. And those are my basic thoughts on how to build, I guess, in a vacuum. The only extra I can add on what Zach said is I sometimes think about, well, a lot of that feeds into your league rules. Like, do you have a tight end premium? There's a return, and you can look for edges there too. But those will become a way to strengthen the area that I purposely fade a little bit if everyone else is going hard on it, so that I can make it a strength later. Like there's return yardage, so I can go deeper on wide receiver maybe, and I faded wide receiver in this draft, or the running backs who do return yardage, or like Zach does with quarterback a lot, I can fade quarterback because I know I can flex a tight end in a 2-point tight end premium. So you look for an edge in those rules, create a weakness, try to exploit the rules to try and make it back up some other way. I don't know. It's very generic, but yeah. My Superflex, I think Daniel Jones is a really solid Superflex option. Yeah. Like he's good. And again, you tear up whenever you can, but Daniel Jones's value right now doesn't suggest that you can get into that higher tier. And I'm pretty happy to start him again this year. We should expect top 12 again. Whether he will or not, we don't know what the season brings. I don't. Other people are convinced they can. Maybe they're right. Ryan Harvey. Hey, bud. I remember you. We've talked before.
A top 2 receiver.
If you have a Gibbs and a Bijan Robinson on some teams, would it be wise to move off of Bijan Robinson for a top 1 to 5 wide receiver? Top 2, yes.
2. It's Chase or Jefferson, or I'm riding Bijan because in 2 years you're going to be able to get a top wide receiver for Bijan. So, and you're going to get 2 years of Bijan production. So if you can't get Chase or Jefferson, that's fine, but play Bijan. I don't think Gibbs factors into this for me, Brian.
Okay.
So, all right, Pete.
No problem, Josh. We gotta go.
We're over there. Let's go rate a league.
What's that thing right behind you? It might be Stefan. No, it's not Stefan.